COVID-wise, not a lot of news. There hasn't been much of change. There's been continuous gradual uptick across the world in the cases. I think it's consistent with the last year. I expect as the years before that we're going to see a similar fall/winter peak. So if you were planning to get your COVID booster, by all means, go ahead and do so. It's a good time to do that right now. So that's my one quick update. You know the drill. Drop the questions in the chat. If you need to unmute, let us know. We'll unmute you. If you're my patient, you need to discuss something, please do stay after we're done, and I'll be with you one-on-one. Last but not least, you all have probably seen that melatonin kills. It's been all over the news. There's been an article in the American Heart Association journal called Circulation that basically claims that melatonin increased mortality by 90%. So if you take it, don't. That's what their conclusion is. Completely bogus. The study is completely fabricated. Even if the study is not study is not fabricated, but the result is completely wrong, period. It's just completely off. If you're taking melatonin, don't worry. It probably doesn't apply to you. The only thing I would say, if you are taking melatonin and you're taking it for sleep, consider that that's probably not the right treatment, because chronic insomnia does not respond to melatonin much, and there's no real good reason to take that. So obviously the study that is in question didn't consider that. They basically just said melatonin kills. In reality, it's a poor sleep that kills. And we already knew that, so there was nothing, basically no new information there. So for those who are interested in more details, including the study link, including detailed information, digestion of the study, etc., if you haven't seen my review of this on the YouTube channel, by all means do so. If you are to subscribe to YouTube channel, you would have not missed that. But I'm going to put the link right now in the chat. So by all means, after we finish today, feel free to review the video. It's a pretty short video. It's only 6 minutes, but I did provide the links to the actual study, as well as some other information, including if you're a cancer patient and you're taking 20 milligrams of melatonin for cancer, please don't stop. There is a conclusive evidence, a lot better than this one study, that melatonin prolongs life in patients with cancer, as well as improves quality of life. And also, as part of that same multitudes of studies, we're talking about 50 double-blind randomized controlled trials. Composites of all the studies shows that overall melatonin actually increases longevity slightly amongst all the patients, including control group. So don't believe things you see in the media. Of course, I don't have to tell you that. You all know that. So that's my only update for today. Let's do a little bit of questions, and then we'll have our recording for today. So what is melatonin good for? Well, for cancer. Melatonin is good in certain situations for trying to maintain circadian rhythm. It's particularly effective for patients with advanced neurologic diseases, Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. Those are the two. It does appear that in those patients, when circadian rhythm begins to get off killed, melatonin and cannabis are probably two best treatments. Melatonin would probably be in the higher end of dosing, somewhere closer to 10 milligrams. Patients with cancer take up to 20. I don't have any updates on RSV vaccine. Again, I don't recommend this vaccine to anybody unless you have a chronic lung disease. So if you have any kind of chronic lung disease, then you should consider getting this vaccine. And chronic lung disease includes asthma, emphysema, also known as COPD or chronic lung disease, and any other chronic lung diseases. There's lots of them. So for example, there's something called there's different types of chronic pneumonias or infiltrative diseases, and things like sarcoidosis and others. So if you do have some kind of a chronic lung disease, I think it's worth talking to your provider and probably worth getting the RSV. Otherwise, I don't believe that it makes a lot of sense, because in non-chronic lung disease patients, the mortality from RSV is extremely low. So most of the patients with RSV who have a very severe illness are the patients with pre-existing lung disorder. Great question. All right, any other questions? We still have about 5-6 minutes. All right, well, if there's no other questions, I'm gonna have a couple other points. You may have heard that, well, you haven't heard this yet, but I did land the TEDx talk at Princeton in February. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a link to a basic talk. Now, the actual talk will be a little longer and more detailed, but I would love your input. I hope you'll get to see this video. It's a 7-minute video. Describes the principle of what polypharmacy is and how I see the treatment to this problem, or rather, how do I see the exit from polypharmacy? So I hope that you can take a look and provide me comments, constructive comments, something you like, something you don't like, anything. I have a lot of time to prepare for the talk, but I think it's important that I take your considerations in. So I'll mention that. Those are my only updates. So unless we have, and if we don't have any other questions, oh, what about neuromuscular conditions that impairs pulmonary function tests? Well, I would consider that being a pulmonary disease if you have a non-direct parenchymal disease. Parenchyma means actual lung tissue. So if you don't have an actual lung tissue disease, and it is a disease of some kind of a muscular concern where lung cannot expand fully, I would still consider that a lung disease, because if you cannot fully operationalize your lung function, you presumably going to be at the higher risk for RSV complications. So I would probably do get RSV vaccine. I'm not exactly sure what specific conditions those implies, but there are a number of. Actually, severe obesity, for example, sometimes impairs lung function. So that's an interesting point. For sleep help, what do you recommend taking? Only medical cannabis. If you're wondering about specific sleep aids, I don't recommend any other sleep aids. I do not recommend Benadryl. And I don't necessarily recommend things like valerian, things like 5-HTP, even magnesium in that sense. Why? Because I presume you already done that. Of course, those things are very supportive, but generally for chronic insomnia, they're not effective. But the first line should be magnesium. If magnesium doesn't help, you can definitely take things like valerian, chamomile, lemon balm. There's lots of different herbs that are cooling and calming for the night. You can try those. Of course, the meditative practices, 4-7-8 breath, so I'm going to type that, are sometimes quite effective. And Epsom salt baths, because you can get magnesium through the skin, are wonderful. And any kind of ceremony towards the evening that allows you to clear your head, that allows you to drop into the body, to allow you to feel more tired and feel that your day is completed would be the right thing to do. Yes, Rona, thank you so much. And of course, watch out for caffeine. Caffeine, particularly if you're sensitive to it, is definitely bad news. And absolutely, many medications interfere with sleep, unfortunately. So that's also something to remember. I also have a strong opinion on alcohol. Some people will have a nightcap. It's a really bad idea. Problem is it may help you to fall asleep, but it's actually going to make your sleep a lot worse. Alcohol is a universal disruptor of the sleep. Even one drink of alcohol will substantially worsen the sleep. And actually, I'm nearly at this point decided that I'm probably going to completely give up alcohol, except for some occasional parties. And the only reason for my decision is that I just started noticing horrendous worsening of my sleep. And it wasn't even that I would wake up feeling tired. That's not a problem. But this, I like an objective. This is an this is an Aura ring. An Aura ring started showing a very poor sleep, even though I would wake up feeling okay, but objective data doesn't lie. So this is the power of continuous assessment of some of your basic parameters. And this is why I made that decision. So I just want to share that since you asked. Great questions today. They're always great, but all right. I don't see any more questions, so maybe we'll move on to. And if you have, okay, I love my Laura ring, or it's a spell check. I get it. I get it, Carice. It's a spell check. Yeah, that's it. The third time is the charm. There are apparently a bunch of new rings that are coming on the market. I've heard of like 2 different ones. We'll see. They're supposed to be much cheaper and will not have membership. So yeah. Yeah, thank you, Stephanie. So Stephanie placed my favorite first line sleep aid that has a low dose THC. It is a hemp derived, so it's legal in every state. They won't ship to every state. Like, for example, they don't ship to Virginia because of some restrictions, but you can ship it to another state. And let's say you're working in DC and you have address in Virginia, you can ship it to DC, and that's perfectly fine. So that's indeed a great product. One other thing is, if you're gonna try cannabinoids for sleep, gummies are very advantageous because they last a lot longer. One of the problem with variety of different sleep aids, they may help you to fall asleep. For example, valerians definitely can do that, but it doesn't really work for a very long period of time. They tend to work for only a couple hours. So if your problem is both falling asleep and staying asleep, THC containing gummies are probably, that's why I said they're my first choice, because the response rate is around 80% in my experience. Very good. Exactly. So the Oura Ring can track a lot of different parameters. By the way, if you have a thing like Apple Watch, it can also do a lot. So I think any wearable nowadays has been transformative to the monitoring of our parameters. And in general, I strongly recommend people to use them if you're not completely opposing to technology. I also going to say the Oura Ring is the only device on the market that I'm aware of that allows you to put it in airplane mode and it'll still collect all your data. So you can turn off the EMF completely on it. All other devices, including Apple Watch, if you're sleeping with it, you are getting a little bit of an EMF exposure. If you really care about that, then you need to think about getting just an Oura Ring because of that. So with that, I'm gonna, before Janet kicks me out of here, I'm gonna stop. And Jen, how are we going to do a recording? You just sharing your screen, I presume?
Yes, I'm just going to share the screen.
All right.
So I put some more bio information about Dr. Jaffe in the chat window. So if anybody wants to know more about him, and now let's just get this started.
Yeah, and if anybody's interested in these products, if you're gonna try something, if you're my patient, definitely let me know. I'm happy to set you up with discount through the full script. I also believe there was some kind of a special discount for us directly on a PERQUE website. And if you interested, I can ask Dr. Jaffe as to, and his team as to what that discount code is. But it's been a while since we used it, so. Janet, we don't have an audio. We can see him talking, but we're not hearing anything.
Okay. Do you know how to do that?
Okay, I think it's working now.
There are certain fundamentals about.
Yeah, can you crank up the volume a little bit if you can?
And when you bring these together, you can today thrive. In fact, one of our 4 books is called Thriving in the 21st Century, a bit of a guide, how to spend just 5% of your time.
I think it's a little bit better.
72 minutes a day is enough to do all of what we recommend to thrive, whereas over 80% of people are just getting by. They are just surviving. They get through the day, but they don't get restorative sleep. They don't understand how to eat, drink, think, and do to undo the distress, the toxins, the adversive things that are all too common today. And I'm here to address the issue, to clarify some of these issues, and if possible, to answer some questions. So, what is the difference between thriving and surviving? Let me give you some examples. I get restorative sleep. I keep my bedroom dark, free of devices, and I wake up in the morning with the sun when the sun wakes me up, and I am joyful about looking forward to whatever can happen today, to what I'm about to help other people to thrive, and I start the day with something wet and warm. For example, I might have a cup of coffee, or I might have a cup of peppermint tea, or I might have a cup or a mug of hibiscus tea. These are heart-friendly, brain-friendly, gut-friendly. These are ways to start the day. 1 cup of coffee in the morning, especially if it's uncontaminated, if it's fresh ground, if it's organically grown, has been shown to be helpful. But if you need more caffeine during the day, you should practice relaxation response, mindfulness practices, meditation or prayer for 20 to 30 minutes once or twice a day. And we recommend you use an LED green light, a specific green light that goes into the retina, into the eye, and then directly those nerve cells, those neurons, go into the pineal. The pineal gland is the helpful controller of the pituitary, which is considered to be the master gland that tells your thyroid, your adrenals, your ovaries or testes, your pancreas, the other organs of the body respond to signals that come out of the pituitary. But the pituitary is guided by the pineal. And green light, specifically green, to counteract the excess blue light that we get from screens and other devices, is more than helpful. It actually balances out our neurohormones. It raises our dopamine. It raises naturally our serotonin and melatonin derived from tryptophan. Taking exogenous melatonin and serotonin is not recommended for many, many reasons, but the natural way, converting tryptophan, what we call sleep guard, into serotonin and melatonin where and when needed is helpful. If you take the exogenous form, that suppresses the internal production. So that is a kind of pharmacology that we today suggest you not do. And we want to balance out adrenaline with these other neurohormones. A little bit of adrenaline is good. And I will just mention that there is a third choice. You might have heard that the choices are to fight or to flee. What about a third choice? Fortitude. We recommend developing fortitude in the ways that I'm talking about because you can then thrive. You can then enjoy your day. You can feel the stress relief and feel the enhanced ability to function. Now, what do I eat and when? Now, for me, I eat one meal a day midday, but I hydrate throughout the day. And later in the day, I have rose petal tea, or pu'er tea, or mixed herbal tea, or white silver needle tea. These are specialized, aromatic, delicious teas. And it turns out that what you smell has a profound effect on your brain and your digestion. So I want my digestion to work well. What I have in the evening comes out the next morning. The digestive transit time should be 12 to 18 hours, but typical of Americans in industrial society, digestive transit time can be 3 to 7 days, which means that you retain waste products in your body that can cause chemicals, harmful chemicals, to be absorbed by the body. But when you have a healthy transit time of 12 to 18 hours, you get rid of the waste promptly and effectively. Hydration, I've already explained the essence that I think you should be sipping on something throughout the day. I'm sipping on something right now. Keeping hydrated is very important. When I was at the clinical center of NIH, we showed that even a small 1, 2, or 3% dehydrated, which is all too common today, has a terrible burden effect on your heart and blood vessels, on your brain, your gut, your digestion, your organs, and your muscles. So if you want to get the most out of your activity, stay hydrated. Now, what about what I refer to as relaxation response or meditation or mindfulness practice or prayer? These have all been shown and documented scientifically and clinically to be beneficial, to balance out stress, to reduce your cortisol, to raise your DHEA. So we can be proactive. At my home, we have a 15-year-old permaculture biodynamic food forest. Most of the herbs and some of the vegetables that we eat, right now it's watermelons, come from our garden. And I get great joy out of going out each day, walking around in the garden. The spongy soil is rich with nutrients. We don't need fertilizer. We provide hardwood mulch and a bit of mushroom compost once or twice a year. And the rest of the time, nature nurtures us. This permaculture food forest was started by my son 15 years ago, and it's pretty much self-sustaining now. We have returning every year cucumbers, pickles, tomatoes. This year, we were blessed with lots of melons, watermelons, cantaloupes, and honeydew. These are hydrating foods. You should eat wet. Start every meal with something wet and warm. And I recommend 3 drops of digestive aid to improve your digestion, to improve your metabolism, to convert food into fuel for the body, not into harmful chemicals, which are too often present. Let's talk for a minute about microplastics and glyphosate and other what are called forever chemicals because they're hard to metabolize. You can reduce by 80% your exposure by following the guidance that we have in Thriving in the 21st Century, the book, That's available on Amazon in multiple formats. And in addition to enjoying that process, you feel lighter. You feel more enabled. You want to get up and move around. If you're in front of a screen, I suggest you have a timer. And for 5 minutes every hour, you get up, look about, hydrate, communicate, enjoy. That undoes most of the harm of sitting. And today, sitting is the new tobacco smoking. It is as harmful as the reference standard for harm, which is tobacco smoking. So if you sit for too long each day, you will regress. If you get up for 5 minutes every hour, you will progress. These are relatively simple ways that you can incorporate health-promoting behaviors and activities into your daily routine. Just a few minutes here and there is enough when you understand what and why you want to do this. I mentioned thinking, and I do include relaxation response and mindfulness practice and meditation and prayer in the thinking part of being, because we now know for sure that your thoughts reshape your body. I am fortunate in that when my predictive biomarkers, of which there are 8, when my predictive biomarkers are measured every 6 months, which is what I recommend, according to my predictive biomarkers, I am functioning at half my biological age. Well, that seems to me pretty good. When I put this information in front of my meditation teacher, who happened to be a Cambodian Buddhist monk named Bhante Dharmawara, we have a book out about my experiences with him. When I put this predictive biomarker information in front of him, he was 90 plus years of age, and he was functioning like a 35 to 40-year-old adult. He looked at me and smiled and said, 40, that's a good age. The point is that your lifestyle shapes your perception, your body, your mind, your digestion. All of you is influenced by the thoughts you have. So if you're worried, if you're living in the past and therefore depressed, if you're living in the future and therefore anxious, I suggest becoming a nowist. I live in the moment. I find the moment so rich, so rewarding, so enticing, so enabling that I enjoy living in the moment. And it turns out living in the moment enriches your life. I used to live too much in the past, and I became a little bit sad, blue, depressed. And that went away when I started more and more to live in the moment. I no longer think too much about the future. I find if you take attention, pay attention each moment to the fullness of that moment, the future takes care of itself. If you live too much in the future, you're likely to get anxious and maybe be prescribed a psychotropic medication, which I have not used or recommended in 40 plus years because I have learned how to be here now. That's the title of a very good book by a friend of mine named Ram Dass, Be Here Now. That's a challenge. That's an opportunity. So I turn around many of the challenges of today into opportunities to be better moment by moment, day by day, month by month, year by year. Let me be a little bit more specific. If you eat processed or ultra-processed foods, or have too much from the deli, or have things that are packaged in plastic, you will be exposed to microplastics. When I go to the market, I shop around the edge of the market, which is where you might find real food, whole food. And I'm very careful about going up and down the aisles, checking labels, making sure that added preservatives, chemicals, colorants, and the like are excluded from my diet, my kitchen, my home. The remaining 20%, we can enhance your ability to get rid of them with detoxification protocols based on your predictive biomarkers. So it's important to know your hemoglobin A1C. It's important to know your high specificity or high sensitivity C-reactive protein, a measure of inflammation. It's important to know your plasma homocysteine, an all-cause morbidity mortality marker, particularly known for its effect on atherosclerosis, hardening of the arteries, heart attacks, and strokes. I want to know your vitamin D level, and I want it to be 50 to 80. The average in America is about 20, and that raises your risk of cardiorenal problems and cancer and other autoimmune problems, all of which are reduced when your vitamin D level is 50 to 80. I prefer drops under the tongue because they're better absorbed. They go to the brain first and then the body. Then I want to know your omega-3 index. What is your balance of omega-3 to omega-6? Almost everyone in America has too much omega-6 and too little omega-3. And for omega-3, the active forms are EPA and DHA. The body does not convert well other forms. It wants both EPA and DHA. What some people say is EPA for body and brain and DHA for brain and body, because much of your brain is made up of these essential fats, and they need to be renewed on a daily basis. And then there's a measure of DNA oxidation called 8-oxoguanine. It's important to know whether your DNA is being oxidized, because then you need more antioxidants. Antioxidants prevent free radical damage. Then I want you to check your pH in the morning. I want you to check your urine pH in the morning. After rest, it should be 6.5 to 7.5. That's the golden mean. That's the average that is healthy. If it's below that, you should take more magnesium and choline citrate. If it's above that, you should address catabolic illness. We have long known that stress and surgery and many procedures leave the person in a catabolic state. That means tearing themselves down. You can reverse catabolic illness by following our How to Thrive in the 21st Century guidance, which means how to balance out hormones and neurochemicals, how to have healthy digestion, because your gut is very much connected to the rest of your body, especially your brain. In fact, there is a second brain in the gut. And half of your immune defense and repair system lines the gut. So we think more of the microbiome, which includes digestion, but it is also more encompassing of the entire GI tract, the immune defense and repair system, and how you digest, assimilate, and eliminate what you eat. Eating less of better is recommended. Eating more of grasses and less of grains. Eating more of whole fruits and less of juice. Fruit juice tends to have too much sugar, too little fiber, and causes your blood sugar to spike. The first predictive biomarker that I mentioned is hemoglobin A1C. It should be 5%. For the last 15 years, my hemoglobin A1C has been at 5%. because 15 years ago I had a near-death experience. I recovered, fortunately, and that's why I'm here today. And I lost 65 pounds of excess weight and fat, both abdominal and systemic. And since I've lost it, I like to be more active. I like to walk for at least 20 minutes twice a day, preferably outside. Fortunately, I live in a forest, a mature woods, so that I have a green canopy. If you're indoors, use that LED green light that I recommended to harmonize your pineal and to balance out your hormones, neurochemicals, and the like. So as you can tell, I love what I do and I do what I love. And I'm here to share with you my half century in molecular biology, biochemistry, clinical medicine, laboratory medicine, and they have all contributed to my synthetic or synthesis of how to survive well, how to be thriving rather than just surviving, how to beat stress and turn it into something useful. A little bit of cortisol once in a while gets you up and going. Too much cortisol on a regular basis will wear you down. I learned this from Hans Selye, the father of stress medicine, and many, many others. I had the great good fortune for being on for a number of years on the permanent senior staff of the NIH, National Institutes of Health, in the clinical center where I could collaborate with the Heart Institute and the Cancer Institute and the other institutes. And each year we contributed a new, improved diagnostic test that was more precise, more clinically useful. And it taught me how much we yet need to learn about life and biology before pharmacology. I'm in favor of using prescription medicines when they're helpful. I'm in favor of first trying physiology. The biology of life may be sufficient to address the stresses, the toxins, and the adverse effects of high-tech living. As you can tell, I'm excited about today and more excited that I'll be able to continue for a long period of time, functioning and feeling well. To be alive is important. To thrive is possible and, I think, desirable. So, let me be a little bit more clear about eating whole foods in a wide variety of ways. I include nuts and seeds in my diet regularly. I include fungi and mushrooms. We actually have 7 mushroom guilds here at my home. Sometimes we can harvest shiitake mushrooms and have them fresh. Mushrooms are good. Fresh mushrooms are better. We also want to have a life of variety, a life that includes what you love to do. It turns out if you like what you do, it's much more, 5 to 10 times more helpful than if you're doing it because someone taught you you should, or it's just an obligation. So I'm in favor of freeing you from obligations and engaging you in what you truly enjoy. I have been teaching this for decades. It's becoming, fortunately, better appreciated, better documented, scientifically, clinically, medically. And it's been my privilege to be one of the leaders in recognizing that we should use biology and biochemistry, we should use molecular biology and habits of daily living to renew, repair, rehabilitate, resuscitate ourselves, and to recycle what can and needs to be recycled in our body and in our life. Now, this does include personal care. It turns out that personal care products are among the most contaminated, and following EWG or other online guides, you can choose healthier, less contaminated personal care products. So, I have tried to give you an overview and insight into how and why I recommend what I do, how and why I live the way I do, and I want you to join me in a revolution, because thriving requires changes in your kitchen, your personal care, your bedroom, your lifestyle. And your lifestyle is determinative. Your lifestyle determines much of your vitality, how you either survive or thrive. So it's been my privilege to be part of this GW Resilience and Wellbeing Center presentation. I am deeply impressed with what you have done at GW to be a leader in living and loving well. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Jaffe. I don't think we have time for questions because we only have about 15 minutes left. And part of our staff, Stephanie, is going to lead us into a mindfulness practice. And I actually don't think I can answer a question about green light. So I think you guys, I'm going to look this up, and I guess I'll try to answer it next time. Stephanie, thanks so much for filling in for Sally, who's unfortunately not feeling well today and won't be with us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kogan, and hello to everyone. My name is Stephanie Covell, and I'm going to lead you in just a short, like a micro break, something that Dr. Jaffe was speaking about, and the importance of taking moments in the day to hydrate, take care of ourselves, and connect again to our bodies. So we can just start to settle in. Maybe you want to find the back of your chair and place each of your feet on the floor, maybe uncrossing your legs. And if you're comfortable, you can close your eyes or turn your gaze softly downwards. And taking a moment just to feel inside your body and reconnect to this moment right here and now. You can start by inhaling through your nose to a count of 4. And slowly exhaling to a count of 6, letting the air purse out through your lips as if you're blowing through a small straw. And again, inhaling to 4. And exhaling to count of 6, slowly letting the tension release from your body as you blow air through your mouth. And continuing on in this manner at your own pace. You may take a hand to your chest or to your belly and start noticing the rise and fall as you breathe. You may start to notice the sound of your heartbeat. Continuing on, inhaling to 4 and exhaling to 6. And just sort of settling into your body. And we'll do 2 more breaths like this. Perhaps on your final breath, you can imagine blowing any stress that's in your life, whether it be physical, mental, spiritual, imagining blowing that out. And you can softly open your eyes. Just take a moment to observe the space that you're in. Any colors that are around you, different fabrics. And you can take your eyes on a little walk, just observing the space that you're in. Maybe finding something in your point of view that makes you smile and just bringing that to your face. And some people call this smile yoga. So just the facial aspect of how a smile translates into the rest of your body. So we can do a little bit more movement here. Um, Perhaps starting on the right side, you want to just shake out your hands and just you can keep breathing as you do this, but helping to stimulate a little bit of qi and blood flow. Perhaps you've been working at a desk all day or typing. And moving on to the left side. Um, Now we can take our hands and rub them together, holding a little bit of heat. Maybe close your eyes just to center. And here we'll pretend we're splashing our face with water. Maybe imagining cool water over your face. And go up into the top of your head. Just listening to whatever feels good. Maybe going to the back of your neck with your fingertips. And waking up all the energy and chi in our face. And sometimes we can hold a lot of tension here too. And then taking your 2 fingers and sort of making a little thing like this. And you can just go um, at your jawline, sort of right in front of your ears, and rubbing your fingers up and down here. This can help energize, especially in the late afternoon. Can hold a lot of tension here, but you could do it as vigorously as what feels good for you. And then moving into the jaw, just taking our fingers, maybe tracing along the jawline. Again, here we can hold a lot of tension throughout the day. Just massaging. I'm going to move down into the throat and the neck, taking our hands, just turning inwards and gently tracing, sort of connecting the head to the heart here. And let's take another moment just to settle into our body. Maybe close your eyes again and find your breath. And one more breath. We can do a little bit of stretching. So we'll alternate from the left to the right arm. So let's begin with really reaching your left arm up. And you can do this seated or standing if you'd like. And taking hold of your right hand, just grabbing the wrist. And reaching up and breathing, inhaling here. And then we're going to alternate. So grabbing the other hand, the other arm with the other hand, and exhaling. And then switch. So inhale. And exhaling, alternating. This is helping to open up the lungs, bring in fresh oxygen, blood flow. You might start feeling a big stretch up through your arm, into your armpit, into your rib cage. And one more like this. Inhaling and exhaling. I'm going to do a little bit of just quick shoulder rolls. Again, closing your eyes can help you feel a little more deeper into your body, tune into what might need a little extra care. We'll roll our shoulders back. I'm going slow here, just kind of feeling into all the nooks and crannies, tight, like juicy spots. And then alternating direction. I'm taking one final breath here all together. Remember that this is always available to you, no matter where you are. It's a simple practice of reconnecting to your body. You can do it anywhere, anytime. It's free. It can really change your mindset for the rest of your day. And thank you so very much for having me. And hope you all have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you, Stephanie. This was delightful. It's always wonderful to have you lead the practice.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank Dr. Jaffe. Janet, who do we have next week? And while we're waiting for that,
Hi, sorry.
that's okay.
I'm doing too many things behind the scenes.
Of course you are.
Next week it will be Dr. Mikhail Koven and Stephanie Covell.
All right. The team will be back. The team will be back.
Yes.
Just everybody do plan for 28th. We will be off. It's the Thanksgiving Friday, so Black Friday. We will not be meeting, of course. Otherwise, we'll see you all next Friday. I don't know what kind of weekend we're getting. Last weekend was just marvelous. I hope you all got a little bit of